Hi. So, my name is Jacob, male, 32, and I'm currently residing with my parents near the border of Pennsylvania. I've not yet gotten married, but that's simply because I haven't found the right person yet. I've had my fair share of the comment, ew, a grown man still living with his parents? That's creepy. But it doesn't bother me as much as it used to. For the sake of clarification, both of my parents are aging fast, and my mom is blind by birth. So, although I have to stay away from home for 8+ hours for my work and for running errands, it would do more harm than good if I fully moved out. Plus, I have no wife at the moment, so any medical emergencies of my parents would solely be my responsibility. Around 7 years ago, I started working at the same company as my dad. He was super impressed by me because I cracked the interview completely based on my skills and not with the help of my dad's recommendation. It's an eco-friendly interior design company that focus on maintaining, updating, and upscaling the houses of people, but with the added benefit of making the process as soft as possible on nature. Dad was a senior representative of the prospective committee, while I was in the section of marketing, and also in charge of field trips. It was going pretty well for quite a long while. The money was only sometimes booming because we had a sightless person sitting at home requiring all kinds of medical tests, treatments, and follow ups. Moreover, my dad and myself working away, he thought of getting another helping hand at home. So the expenditures were not exactly negligible, the inflow of money usually balanced out with the outflow, and there was little to put away for savings. But yet, somehow we made it work. And honestly, we were happy to be doing whatever was going for us. Yeah, there was a lot of dad and son grinding their butts off, but there was always food on our plates and pillows on our soft beds and a roof over our heads. And for that, we were always grateful. But last year, something bizarre happened. At the beginning of 2022, amidst the problematic winter and the COVID cases rapidly rising again, it became increasingly difficult for me and my dad to leave mom alone at home, as most days, even our house help, we can call her Trish, the cleaning lady, came in late because of the absurd amount of snow just sitting out there and piling in our front yard and doorway. This took an insane amount of time to clear out. Hence, we came to a mutual understanding where dad carries on with the work in the morning shift and comes back around 2 p.m., and I drop my shift in the morning, stay at home with mom to help, and pick up the work through the afternoon shift that is post 3 p.m. This way, there was no time for mom being home alone without a family member, that is. Either one of us had to be there at home, if not both. Good thing that our office was a workplace that stayed open 24/7, and our boss was lenient enough to allow us this arrangement so that both of us could work comfortably. And this was, again, pretty weird at first because none of us were adjusted to a schedule like this. It was not like anything that we had previously done. We had to wake up at 5:30 in the morning to sit and have breakfast before dad left for the office. Thankfully, the office was just around 5 minutes away. I have a few snacks in between and only have lunch when he comes back from the office after 2 p.m. And I left home after lunch. My office timings were from 3 in the afternoon, so it usually required me to come back post 11 p.m. in the night. Most of the time, my parents would already be asleep, gathering the strength to repeat the same schedule all over again the next day. So I used to have my dinner break back at the office around 8:30 p.m., called, checked in with the parents to make sure that everything was going all right, and when I used to get home, even I went to sleep as soon as I could. On the plus side, the hired help, Trish, usually made us lunch, dinner, snacks, tea, and whatever we needed to function throughout the day. So the only meal that we had to worry about making was breakfast, since it was very early in the morning. Things were smooth on some days and rough and hectic on others, but there was no scope to stop as the family needed money, and to earn money we had to work. Amidst all of this, things suddenly took a turn for the good as my dad closed an essentially important deal that would bring our company a lot of profit. It was an upcoming MNC that worked directly with Hollywood celebrities and influencers and required an interior design for a 30-storied skyscraper which they would later use for their film shootings and advertisements. A big deal equals a big payload, for him and everyone else too. But at the same time, it meant bigger responsibility. So, after the celebration of my dad's signing of the deal, at the office, he applied for a 3-day leave to have a staycation with us, his family, before driving elbows deep into the new project. I decided it would be great for me to do the same, as that way the family could live together for some time before the pressure of this new thing began. This did not require much effort, as our boss mentioned that they needed to hire people in bulk. They already had started onboarding over a dozen subordinates at a time, so that Dad had ample help to get this done, as he was now the project manager for the same. Cameron, our boss, signed both of our leave applications and sent us home. I asked Dad to carry on, but I had a little work pending from the last workday, so I decided to catch up on that and then join my parents at home later in the evening. But who knew that my day would not remain even half as jolly after Dad left? So I'm sitting there, working on my desk, and a lady just arrives with a coffee in one hand and sits next to me. Yeah, just like that. No introduction, no nothing. Just randomly sits beside me and acts like she has a lot of work to do on the computer, the one that was right next to mine. I realized that she was not habituated to using the system regularly, as I caught her being a little restless in her chair, sometimes fidgeting with the keyboard or the wires, and sometimes with her coffee. I wanted to ask if she required any help, but between her not asking for help from me, herself, and having a know-it-all, yet unable to get anything done kind of attitude, I chose not to. She also struck me as a little clumsy. Otherwise, why would she keep dropping one thing after another? Her continuous movements distracted me from my work. I was already annoyed and ready to go home. But just as I started to push back and rotate my chair to get up, a weird and electrically cold feeling just rushed through my spine. I looked down in horror, only to find that this woman had now supposedly spilled her iced coffee right on my pants. My pants were soaking wet, and the ice had started melting. It was a disaster in all of its glory. I stood up firmly and eyed her, looking for any signs of remorse. To my surprise, she pretended that nothing ever happened, and tried to just almost casually walk away from the scene that she caused. I couldn't keep quiet anymore. Me. Hey, miss, where do you think you're going? Karen. What do you mean, where am I going? I'm going downstairs, of course. There's lots of areas to explore. I understood she was one of the newly hired people of the company, but that didn't solve my soaking wet pants that now smelled like coffee problem. Me. Do you not realize what you've done? No apology whatsoever. And you were about to walk away just like that? Karen. Oh, yeah, the coffee thing. I was hoping you couldn't mention it to anybody. It's kind of my first day. Me. Well, your first day impression is not looking good to me, at least not yet. Karen. Calm down. It's just coffee. It's not like the entire ocean was thrown on you. Me. What's wrong with you? This is gonna leave a stain, and it's iced coffee in this cold of winter? How am I supposed to go home? And all of this wasn't even my fault either. It's you who spilled it on me, and you didn't even apologize. Karen, getting angrier. What do you want me to do, kid? Bring you gold tissue papers and wipe your thighs like this were some 80s sitcom drama? Well, come on, snap out of it. Don't waste my time anymore, please. She was about to go away, embarking on her weird office journey, but I wasn't done yet. At least, not until I got an apology. So, to stop her from going, I kind of instinctively grabbed her wrist. Although immediately let it go, as I felt too bad to be a man and apply physical pressure on a woman, no matter how problematic she was. Me. Hey, wait. Karen, did you just touch my hand? Me. I'm sorry. I mean, I didn't mean to do that, but you were not. Karen, you think you can get away with sexual harassment with a sorry? Me, baffled. What? What harassment? Karen. Oh, of course, now you're going to pretend like you don't know what I'm talking about. Me. Well, it's because I don't know what you're talking about. Karen. How dare you touch me and hold me like that? Me. I held your wrist because you were going away without even caring to listen to me. And that too was for less than a second, and I apologized immediately for doing that. And I, in turn, however, am still waiting to receive an apology for you spilling this coffee on me. Karen. Don't try to change the subject. You attacked me. You think just because I'm new here that you can get away with me? Harass me however you want? I'll tell everyone about this. Hell, I'll even call the cops. Consider your job gone." Without giving me any other chance to speak, she just stormed off. I decided I needed to keep somebody informed about this, but Cameron was busy attending a meeting. So I decided that my dad would be the right person I should tell this to. I went home and immediately rambled on to my dad about whatever happened after he left. He calmly listened to me while my mother helped me into a new dry pair of clothes. And Dad then dialed the number of the security department, and as we spoke on the call, I understood that he was asking him to keep today's second floor security camera footage extra carefully. We had CCTV surveillance. Of course. How could I forget about that? I just wanted to wipe the smug smile off her face. Anyways, Dad said that although we were technically on a holiday for the next few days onwards, we might have to go to the office once called if necessary. I was prepared, but no call came. And since I was getting anxious, both of us decided to drop by. Turns out, Karen's working hours were starting from the afternoon shift, and she was hired to work under the big MNC project that my dad was leading. How the tables turn. Anyways, moving on, we realized there was a little bit of free time on our hands. So we informed the whole situation to Cameron, took permission from him to visit the security department, and there we all sat together and looked at the CCTV footage. Fortunately, things were looking good on my side as far as the footage was concerned. Guess what happened not even 1 hour later? Large black and blue cars with cops in them were pouring in, and in the front seat of the first car, there she was, the Karen from yesterday. She tried to frame me pretty hard, accusing me of touching her, attacking her, and harassing her, and God forbid not. But she did not know what was in store for her. She had no idea that we would be prepared, and funnily enough, she somehow actually thought that I wouldn't tell anybody my side of the story. My dad introduced himself as her boss, and to her shock, I introduced myself as his son. Her jaw dropped further and further apart as we made the cops sit alongside her and rewind the footage to prove me innocent. The security camera people, my dad, myself, and our boss Cameron, everybody was silently watching the footage of how this woman was completely a walking, talking stick of lies. Karen, to her surprise, realized that my dad was her boss, and I had already told him everything about what had happened. She tried to apologize, but thankfully it was too late. The cops took her away for fake accusations against me, which were nullified, of course. And Cameron apologized to us, telling us that he would be more careful with the screening of the new employees from then onwards. He even extended our holiday for a week as a courtesy. That was fun. My dad and I triumphantly walked back home, discussing the events of the past few days, excited to tell Mom as soon as we reached her. In the pre-apocalypse days, I was invited out regularly to go out with my sister and her friends. I usually declined. I don't even know her friends and we live in different worlds. But I finally said yes and went to a bar or restaurant they like to go to. After a few hours of being there and realizing that my sister was trying to set me up with someone, I was getting ready to leave. The check was about $100, so I paid for everyone up to that point. They stayed and drank for a few more hours. A few weeks ago, my sister talked me into going out with her and her friends, all female, who haven't gotten together since the apocalypse started. I was bored and decided to go. We were at the same place, their favorite hangout. I showed up after everyone else. Something I'm trying to do is not be the first one at everything I do, just be a few minutes tardy. They had their first rounds and were deciding on food. They began to order appetizers and another round of the good margaritas. I don't drink when I'm out of the house. I'm a lightweight. And I had burger and fries. My sister went with some kind of sandwich. The other 6 girls went with dishes that were in the $20 range. I noticed that when they would order, they were looking at me and smiled. I knew they expected me to pick up the check. After I finished eating, I excused myself and went to the restroom. On the way back, stopped the server and we went to the computer and I paid for myself and my sister. I then went and sat down and finished my iced tea. I handed my sister a $10 bill and told her that it was for the server and I was leaving. I put my coat on and told her I took care of her part of the bill and left. My sister told me this part after I left. Everyone finished their drinks about 10 minutes after I left and were getting ready to go. The server came over and dropped the check for them. She told my sister that I had paid for her and myself. They tried to argue that I was supposed to pay for them too and to put it on my card. The server had to explain that I split the check and paid for me and my sister only. They had to pay the rest. Their bills came to over $50 a piece. They were panicking. They began to fight amongst themselves over how to split it. The server just stood there and used her pad to split the check separately. The manager came over and stood there filming them to make sure that they paid their bill. They've left messages to me and my sister about what an a-hole I was for sticking them with their own bill. In the end, my sister realized that these people weren't really her friends and that I have reasons for not hanging out with her and her friends. I'll stick with my small group of friends I've sorted out over the decade. Edit. My sister thought it was nice of me to pay the first time and didn't even bring up that I was coming the second time until I showed up. I never said that I was coming ahead of time. They usually just paid for their own food and drinks, so she was surprised that they did this. She said that they were really rude about having to pay after I left. So, no, my sister wasn't part of this.